Hey everyone, I just wanted to share some parts from a lecture that I gave some time ago. Since I know that not everyone who is following me here on YouTube got Facebook, then this one is for you. The lecture was given on a great Facebook page called the CoronaBassoons, made by some really great and good working Brazilian bassoonists. The lecture was even translated into Spanish live. So for those of you who maybe understand Spanish a bit better than English, then you can now follow it in both languages. The whole thing lasts about like 2 hours, so it's quite long. But here now in this little video, there are just some excerpts or some parts from it. And among the topics that I will just share with you here now are some thoughts to students. Second thing is a little danger that can come with being a teacher. A third thing is, or are some thoughts on how to promote the bassoon and how to create a bigger environment for it. And last is my idea of what defines professionalism, especially as a musician. So if this sounds interesting for you, then enjoy the show.
Instead, as a student, it's very easy to expect that, yeah, it's the teacher's job to teach you and you show up to the lesson and, yeah, please impress me. And very many times we do this as students, but some bassoonists, or not only bassoonists, but some musicians are not always a good teacher. Just because you know how to play doesn't necessarily mean you know how to teach. Which means if you have a very good performer who happens to give a masterclass or you have a lesson with, and you realize this person is maybe not the best pedagogue, then you as the student need to dig out information from the teacher. So you need to ask the right questions, because the person knows all of this stuff if the person is able to do it, but maybe they're not able to formulate themselves. So then I would rather, try to formulate yourself better, to dig out important things from the teacher. And that is a skill very many students don't have, which means that they lose a lot of opportunities. Sure. So yeah, then the next one, as I think you said, a teacher. I don't want to add too much on this, but maybe I would just say one of the dangerous things a teacher can do, which in my opinion is not a good idea, is that when you are a teacher, very often you are surrounded with people who play on a lower level than you. If not, they wouldn't study with you. And the problem with that is very often your ego can start to grow and you believe that you are much better than what you actually are. So in my opinion, this is just a little digression. I will continue with my list, but in my opinion, the best music teacher is someone who is still able to admit that they are also still learning. Because no matter how good or famous you are, you will always be a student of music and you can always improve. Then it's very important to remember that there are many other possibilities for a bassoonist than only playing in the orchestra. And one of those options are to be a freelance. But the danger with being a freelance is that many people think that people who are freelance don't have the level of a professional musician, which is totally wrong. Totally wrong. Because many professionals also actually decide to become a freelance of their own will. And personally, I have done a lot of freelancing myself, both before and after I got a job and played with professionals. And actually very many times when I was having a gig and playing with freelancers, I experienced many of them as actually more professional than many of the actual professional musicians I have met, both behaving wise and playing wise. So professionalism, that is very important. Professionalism doesn't come automatically with winning an audition. It is something you need to learn over time, and you have and how you behave has just as much to do with professionalism as how you play. To make a bigger platform, you need to meet or the people who will benefit from this. If you are online, for example, is most likely the next generation, the younger people. So I think you need to be where the young people are. The young people will probably not come to you if they don't know about you. So I would say being online is where you will meet the young people, because the young people, they are very much online. They know how this stuff works. They know Facebook and YouTube much better than I do. I'm already a grandpa in comparison to the kids who knows this stuff. And they will find, if they are searching for bassoon related things, they will find this stuff. So maybe you can actually, by sharing some photos or recordings or information about your instrument online, then I really believe young people will eventually find this stuff. And for some people, it can actually be enough to try the instrument themselves, or maybe rent one or buy one if you have the money for that. So online activity, super essential. Now I will just present a quite typical scenario. Maybe when you grew up as a kid, maybe you were the only person that you knew in your town who wanted to play bassoon. At least that's how it was with me. When I started, I had actually only one friend that was my age that also played bassoon. And this was back in the 1990s, mid-1990s. Of course, the internet back then was very different than what it is today. So if more information, photos and recordings would have been available online, it would help me a lot. One of the things is, of course, to have a good teacher. But you don't always need to be a professor or a famous person somehow to just be able to tell a student what they need to hear to develop further. That's very important to remember. So sometimes all you need is for someone to just hear the bassoon to become interested and take the step in actually buying or renting a bassoon. But for this to be a reality, then we now need to be able to see ourselves happy with what we're actually able to do, and not wait with sharing a recording of our playing until the day when you maybe will sound like Klaus Thunemann or Azzolini or Dag Jensen. Because reality is, none of us will sound like that. Probably not. And the reality is also that even people like Thunemann and all of these, Maurice Allard or Azzolini or whatever, these people, they have haters too. There are people that doesn't like what they do. And if there are people who doesn't like perhaps the best performers this world has to offer on the instrument, then what do you have to lose? There are people who will not like your stuff either. And that's the whole point with art. You're not supposed to please everyone. And I think if you are just able to get out to one or two persons, then you have already done really much. It requires a lot for one person to get a really close contact through music with another. If you manage that, you have already done a lot. So don't be too afraid with sharing what you have to say, because just because you are maybe not the world star, that I still believe there are thousands of people in this world who would like to hear you play. I think conclude my last topic here now is a quote by Frank Zappa that I really like. And he said, "People who don't like your art is not the final arbiter of taste of the entire population." And I think that's very important to remember. If you meet one person or even 10,000 people who doesn't like what you do, doesn't mean that everyone else thinks the same. And that's important to remember, especially if you dare to post something online, because online people are very often anonymous, and they will, if they want, they can write a lot of crap or trash. But then you have to remember, okay, well, even they listened to you. That's a good start. So I'm closing this topic with that.